Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sitting on the train to Magnolia, the train departs from Harujan Station and passes through Magnolia, Onabasai, Ganuki, Ashabana, and Kroba. Leila, who was sitting by the window, rested her chin on her left hand and looked at the scenery outside the window. The train was moving slowly. At first, Mavis was the same as Leila, but after a while, Mavis began to read. Because the journey was not short, the scenery on the road was mostly forests, canyons, and the like. This world is very big, but there are only some places with sparse population. There are not many cities, and not many people live in each city. Mavis, who was sitting opposite, was reading a book quietly. Leila once asked Mavis why she didn't buy a pair of Fongyeong glasses. She said that although those glasses can help people finish a book quickly, she still likes the feeling of reading slowly. Mavis raised her head and noticed Leila staring out the window in a daze, and then asked, "Do you want to read with me?" "What books are there?" "First generation." Leila was a little interested. "There are some national history books, some magic books that are used in daily life, some adventure story books, and of course some novels written by famous writers, as the boss said." "Which one do you want to read?" Mavis took out a few books from her luggage and introduced them to Leila. "Can I read that adventure book?" Leila pointed to the book with a picture of a man traveling through the forest and asked Mavis. "Okay, here you go." Mavis nodded and handed the book to Lyra. Lyra took the book and opened it, reading the introduction of the adventure at the beginning. As the story unfolded, Lyra gradually became fascinated and fell asleep on the table. Mavis was startled by Lyra's snoring. Seeing Lyra lying on the book with her mouth drooling, she smiled helplessly. "Leila, Leila." Mavis called Leila several times and gently shook Leila's body. "Leila, we've arrived in Magnolia." "Oh, okay, first generation." After waking up, Leila followed Mavis's footsteps, picked up her luggage and walked down the carriage. It was already night and the guild was closed. After that, Leila and Mavis said that they would go home to put down their things first, and then go out to eat, because the house had just been bought and the ingredients had not been purchased, so they couldn't cook at home. Leila led Mavis to the house, put Mavis's things in Auguste's house, took Mavis to a restaurant to eat, and then returned to the house to rest. Mavis said that she would find a house tomorrow and just stay here temporarily, but Leila said it didn't matter. It was originally the house bought by Auguste, but Mavis insisted. Back in her room, Leila didn't feel sleepy. She had a good sleep on the train. Although the posture was a little uncomfortable, Leila felt a little familiar after a long time. She couldn't stand the sleepiness when she read a book, so Leila sat up and began to try to materialize some things. After a while of experiments, Leila's magic power couldn't hold on. Then she meditated for a while and lay on the bed to sleep. After all, still need to get up early. The next morning, Mavis knocked on the door of Leila's room early, shouting for Leila to get up. Leila suddenly woke up when she heard Mavis' voice, muttering that she still got up late, and quickly got up to dress and wash. Mavis on the side couldn't wait. Standing at the gate, Mavis looked at the guild. Their figures emerged in her mind, and then opened the door and walked in. Leila followed Mavis silently. Mavis looked around, and the appearance of the guild had changed a lot, but this was normal. The guild was so lively all day long, and every time they had a disagreement, they would start fighting. The table said that it couldn't last a day. No, it couldn't last for half a day and had to be replaced, so the decoration on the first floor was often changed, but other places were basically the same as before. Makarov was sitting on the counter, drinking a glass of wine, and saw Leila bringing a girl into the guild. He was a little drunk and sobered up instantly. Looking at Mavis looking around in the guild, he quickly walked to Leila's side and asked Leila who this was. "Old man, who do you think she looks like?" Leila looked at Makarov's anxious look and asked him calmly. "Brat." Makarov glared at Leila, and then walked towards Mavis. Makarov walked to Mavis, whose eyes were still shining, and said, "Could you come with me, please?" "Okay." Mavis saw Makarov's somewhat incredible but calm look, and smiled, then agreed to follow Makarov's footsteps. "Come here too." Makarov glanced back at Leila, who was ready to watch the show. Oh, okay. Leila also knew the importance of the matter, and still needed to discuss it with the old man, and then followed Makarov's pace. Mikhail and Wakaba used their eyes to signal to Leila if there was anything wrong. Leila shook her head and waved her hand to indicate that it was okay. The commission that Mikhail and Wakaba had received 2 days ago was not far from Magnolia, and the commission was not difficult. The only thing worth complaining about was that as soon as they came back, the two of them started to compare who earned more, and then the loser would buy a drink. In a room next to the infirmary, Makarov led Mavis into the room, turned around and told Leila to wait outside, closed the door, and then set up a barrier. First generation, is it really you? Makarov asked Mavis anxiously. Yeah. Mavis nodded and answered Makarov affirmatively. Upon hearing this, Makarov couldn't help but feel excited and incredible. He was about to say, "What about your body? This body of mine is a fake, the original one is still there, but some unexpected things happened." Makarov thought of something and glanced at the door, then turned and said, "Does Leila know you?" "Well, Leila knows some things about me." Along the way, Mavis talked with Leila and learned that Makarov is the current president of Fairy Tale and some other information. She also learned that Auguste and Makarov had met. Mavis didn't keep it a secret any longer and told her the whole story of Makarov. Leila waited outside the door for a long time, and his body was almost covered with hair. He gently lay beside the door, trying to listen to the movement inside, but no sound came out. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "This stinky old man, he doesn't allow me to eavesdrop." With a sound, the door opened, and Leila, who was lying at the door, lost her support and almost fell down. She quickly stabilized her body, stood at the door, leaned against the wall, and looked as if nothing had happened. "Smelly boy, come in." Makarov opened the door and saw Leila's series of actions. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and then asked Leila to come in with a stern face. "Oh, okay." Leila heard what old man Makarov said, and walked into the room obediently, looking at Mavis sitting beside the bed, and smiled. "What about the first generation? What should we do now?" "Well, let's keep it secret." "What is your identity?" "Let's just say she's Leila's sister." Mavis looked at Leila, who was pretending to be well-behaved and smiling at her, thinking silently in her heart, and then the corners of her mouth slightly curled up, revealing an innocent smile. "Ah. Sister. Well, Leila is so good." Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mavis was like this, and her identity to the outside world was Leila's sister. Afterwards, Mavis said that she was just here to take a look and would not return to the guild, also to prevent some people from knowing her identity. Makarov and Leila agreed, and then walked out of the room together. "You know what to say when you get out, right?" Makarov told Leila. "Don't worry, old man, I'll take care of it." Leila patted her chest and raised her thumb, looking very confident. Makarov stared at Leila, which made her a little nervous. "You'd better make me feel at ease." He thought to himself, "You took away a book on the first day you came to the guild, and you didn't come on the second day. When you came back, you brought back the entire first generation. If you stay for a while, you won't bring back other people for me, will you?" Walking into the living room, Makarov said hello to Leila and Mavis and went back to the counter, while Mavis and Leila walked to a table and sat down, ordering a few meals. Most of the people in the guild went out to work, but two people, Mikhail and Wakaba, came over. "Leila, who is this?" Mikhail saw Mavis next to Leila and asked. "My name is Mavis, I am Leila's sister, and I came to visit Leila today." Mavis said gently. "Oh, Leila is very well behaved here, and with us here, don't worry, we will take good care of Leila." Wakaba heard what Mavis said and immediately replied. "Well, I saw the environment of the guild, it is very lively and full of joy. I think Leila will grow up well here, thank you too." After dinner, Mavis was about to leave, but the figure of a child caught her attention. The child looked very much like Yuri. Laxus walked into the guild, greeted other members of the guild, and then walked to Makarov at the counter. Makarov also jumped down from the counter, looking at Laxus with a kind look. Leila was a little excited, and without any hesitation, she took out the camera from her backpack and took a picture. Then she followed Laxus's footsteps, looked at Makarov and Laxus, and took another picture. "Is that child Makarov's grandson?" Mavis asked Leila to confirm her guess. "Yes." While answering Mavis's question, Leila took out the photo and looked at the finished product. Mavis felt a little speechless. Leila carried her camera with her. Leila explained that it was just a little hobby of hers. She liked to use the camera to record her life. After Makarov finished talking to Laxus, he brought Laxus to Leila and introduced Leila to Laxus. As for Leila, Makarov told her on the day he joined the guild that he had a grandson named Laxus, but he didn't come to the guild that day because of something. After hearing this, Laxus greeted Leila, and Leila responded to Laxus when she heard it. At this time, Laxus was still very friendly. Then Laxus asked what magic Leila was learning. Leila told Laxus that he was learning the arc of materialization. Laxus's face was full of confusion, so Leila and Laxus went to the guild together. Laxus was explaining the magic, and he seemed to be thinking about it. He challenged Leila to a duel again. Leila decisively refused. Leila said that she did not like fighting, and the magic she learned was not for fighting. Makarov on the side also knew Leila's strength. He could see that if Leila really dueled with Laxus, Laxus might not be able to win. Laxus did not feel it was a pity, but just said that he would persist. Maybe he wanted to compete with his peers, or more likely he wanted to prove that as Makarov's grandson, he was stronger than others. Makarov interrupted Laxus and changed the subject. He asked him how his physical examination at Granny Polyusica was. Laxus replied that Granny Polyusica said that he was in good health and the condition of the magic crystal was also stable. Mavis heard it from the side and asked, "Magic crystal?" Well, Laxus had a dragon-slaying magic crystal implanted in his body because his health was not very good, so his father implanted the magic crystal in him. Makarov explained the reason for the incident, and from his words one could hear a hint of dissatisfaction with Laxus' father. Fortunately, Laxus' body was very adaptable to the magic crystal, and not only did his physical fitness improve, he also learned to use dragon-slaying magic. This child will definitely grow up well and become an excellent wizard. Mavis stared at Laxus and saw that the magic crystal of Laxus was of the lightning type. Thinking that Yuri's magic was also of the lightning type, she couldn't help but feel nostalgic. "Sister, who are you?" Laxus looked at Mavis. "This is Leila's sister, please be polite." Makarov and Laxus said. "Oh, hello, sister." Laxus greeted Mavis politely after hearing his grandfather's words. "Laxus is also good." Mavis smiled at the well-behaved Laxus. Leila didn't have the heart to disturb Mavis's fantasy, but thinking of Laxus' rebellious period in the future, she would take more photos of him. "These are all black material. In that case, I will go back. I feel relieved that Leila is here," Mavis said to Makarov. "Well, okay." Makarov wanted to use a polite word, but considering that others didn't know, he just responded casually. "Leila, I'm leaving now." Mavis said to Leila again. "Well, goodbye, sister." Leila replied helplessly. Macau and Wakaba said at this time, "Leila, your sister looks young, but she feels very mature." Yes, it is true. Mavis was probably 13 or 14 years old when the curse struck her, but her actual age should be in her 20s, so she is indeed a little adult. "By the way, Leila, do you want to form a team with us? You don't have to go on any missions, just provide intelligence. After a few years, you can do it yourself." Mikhail walked to the right of Leila and put his left hand on her shoulder, looking like a kidnapper. In fairy tale, there are many children like Leila. For some reasons, they have no family around them, but the guild will provide some financial support. When they are able, they will be allowed to do commissions. Of course, there will also be seniors watching them to prevent accidents. "No, I am not ready to accept the mission yet, but if you want to know the intelligence, you can come to me directly. Any member of the guild is fine." Leila has his own ideas, and he has made a plan. His plan has several steps. The most important thing at present is to create an intelligence station in the guild first, and any information in the guild can be obtained from him to obtain funds. Later, when he has time, Leila will go to the East Forest to practice, but his magic practice is a little unsafe, and he needs to learn some simple spells. Fortunately, Leila's talent is not bad. Leila believes that it should be a problem of his soul strength. His perception of magic and the speed of practice have greatly improved. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Leila went to discuss something with Makarov. Old man, please find a seat for me. Leila was massaging Makarov's shoulders and legs. Not bad, very comfortable. Makarov closed his eyes and enjoyed it. Old man, please, I'm begging you, this is for everyone. Leila stood in front of Makarov and begged the old man again. Okay, I'll arrange it for you. Don't panic, let me prepare something. Makarov couldn't stand the look in Leila's eyes, and told her to prepare something for him. Great, thank you, old man. Just like that, Makarov moved a table and a chair to the side next to the commission column. Leila kept her smile and stood stiffly aside. She blinked twice, stretched out her fingers, opened her mouth and wanted to say something but couldn't. Okay. Makarov looked at it with satisfaction, turned his head and said to Leila. Huh. Leila was speechless. Well, what are you dissatisfied with? Got it. Makarov noticed Leila's stiff expression and movements and felt her dissatisfaction. After some fiddling, he wrote an intelligence station sign for Leila and placed it next to the table. Then he gave Leila a thumbs up and said, how about it? It's much better this time, right? President, please stop teasing Leila. Seeing Leila's petrified look, Mikhail couldn't stop laughing. That's right, Leila was petrified. Wakaba also agreed. Okay, kid, follow me. Makarov finally stood up and called Leila, and walked towards the room next to the commission column. Leila understood that Makarov was making fun of him, and felt helpless. The old naughty boy was joking with a child, and then followed happily. Makarov gently pushed open the slightly old door, and a faint wooden fragrance came to his face. The furnishings in the room are simple and practical, without too many gorgeous decorations, but revealing a different kind of warmth. Walking into the room, there is an antique bookshelf standing by the wall, on which various books and materials are neatly placed. Next to the bookshelf is a simple desk with a desk lamp and some tools on it, and chairs are placed on both sides of the table. This room, just put whatever you need here. Grandpa, what was this room used for before? It was just a simple study room. Later, not many people used it, so it was left empty. Thank you, sir. Not bad, right? By the way, if you teleport next time, please teleport to this room. Don't run around and scare me again. Makarov gladly accepted Leila's thanks, and then thought of the teleportation and gave Leila some instructions. Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm going out now. Leila tidied up the study and put down some of her belongings. After a while of propaganda, some members of the guild began their own tasks. Some tasks were simple and there was no need to ask Leila for information. However, when it came to defeating monsters or thieves, Leila would also use the ancient book magic to search for information. After spending the day like this, on the way back, Leila remembered what Mavis had said to him before she left, that Mavis would wait for him at home. I'm back. You've worked hard, wash your hands and get ready for dinner. Mavis was standing in the kitchen and heard Leila's voice, asking her to wash her hands and get ready for dinner. Okay. Leila obediently went to the bathroom to wash her hands, then went to the kitchen and brought the food from the kitchen to the table in the living room. On the way back from the guild, Mavis went to the store to buy some ingredients and returned home. On the way, he also observed the changes in the city of Magnolia, then he went to look for a house again, and happened to meet the landlady. Mavis asked the landlady if there were any vacant houses nearby. The landlady said that the house next door was vacant, and Mavis just bought the house next door. While eating, Leila and Mavis talked about what happened in the guild today. Mavis listened carefully on the side. After hearing what Leila said, Mavis also said that she had found a house next door. After dinner, Leila and Mavis washed the dishes, and Leila helped Mavis move his luggage next door. After saying goodbye, he returned to his house because he still had things to do. But before leaving, Leila asked Mavis a question. First generation, when will Grandpa come back? Well, he told me that it would take at least a week and at most a month. So what are you going to do when Grandpa comes back? We two agreed to go out and play. Going out to play? Yeah, what about me? Haven't you joined the guild? You should practice hard and become a great wizard. Come on. Leila returned to the room, lay on the table, and began to write something, but it seemed that she had encountered some bottlenecks. Leila's expression was not very good. Helplessly, Leila crossed out some content and replanned it, but Leila could not get what she wanted. However, Leila came to a conclusion that she should do that thing first, and then continue. Leila waved her hand, and a green magic circle appeared, encrypting and sealing the diary in front of her. Lying on the bed, Leila's mind was still thinking constantly, we still have to improve our strength first, otherwise many plans will be difficult to implement. No, learn this first, otherwise it will be difficult to deal with. Then Leila sat up and used the super ancient document magic to search for information for study. Because she was in the guild during the day, Leila's progress was a bit slow. After a few days, Leila first learned that magic, and then Leila went to the East Forest to practice there. During this period, Leila met Laxus several times. Because Laxus's situation was stable after the last visit to Grandma Pelusica said very impolitely that Laxus didn't need to go there in the future, and she also said that she hated humans. Laxus then spent the next few days training in the East Forest. At the same time, because of Makarov's concern for Laxus' safety, he asked Laxus to train well and wait for him to examine his ability before accepting the mission. However, seeing Laxus training there crazily, it was also because he wanted to improve his physical fitness because he was in poor health. Laxus rarely cast dragon-slaying magic these days. Considering some reasons, Leila always avoided the place where Laxus trained and then learned the spell. Leila first had to learn the text written in the spell, and its meaning Leila must remember it, otherwise if there is a mistake in the use of magic, the rules will be invalidated. Leila kept reciting the text here. Leila had never seen the text of the spell, so the learning process was not good, and she needed to remember the meaning clearly. Leila kept writing the rules on the grass, always forgetting some details, and sometimes writing it wrong, and directly scrapping it. Overall, Leila spent a day in memory and failed writing. Of course, Leila also succeeded. A barrier was set up. Although it was just a simple age setting, it was not bad. You can use Natsu to test it later. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Leila was immersed in the study of ritual magic, something suddenly flashed in his mind. He remembered that there seemed to be Chinese characters in the three-dimensional text magic. He couldn't wait to open the ancient document magic and search for three-dimensional text magic. After carefully checking the search results, he finally found it, the Japanese character Chinese character. Why are they in traditional Chinese? Leila stared at the screen in front of her. It recorded relevant information and some examples of magic use, but the densely packed Chinese characters were all in traditional Chinese. Fortunately, I can understand Martian language, and traditional Chinese characters are just so. Leila began to learn the characters in it. Overall, Leila felt pretty good. After an afternoon, she could read all the characters and use magic to write them out and achieve the effect. Compared with the spell, it is much better. The spell still needs a few days to learn. The main thing is that there are too many characters to remember. If you are not familiar with it, it will take too much time to write it out. Compared with the spell, it is really incomparable. It takes several days to learn the spell, and the main thing is that the characters to remember are as numerous as the stars, which makes people overwhelmed. If you are not familiar with it, the writing process is even longer. Helplessly put the practice of the arc of manifestation behind. Before, Leila was relieved because of Auguste next to her. Now she is alone. However, it seems that nothing has happened in Magnolia yet, and the safety is very good, but just in case, it is better to be safe as much as possible. After all, Leila may need to materialize some other people. While Leila is studying hard, on the other side, Laxus is also working hard. Gradually, the sun gradually set, and a figure came up behind Laxus from afar. Seeing Laxus practicing hard, Makarov felt relieved and thought, if Laxus can grow up, I will hand over this guild to him. Forget it, it's too early. Forget it. Then he shook his head and came to Laxus' side. Hey, Laxus, you're still training. Makarov stood behind him, coming here to call Laxus to get ready to go home for dinner. Yes, Grandpa. Laxus stopped when he heard Makarov's voice, turned around and saw Makarov's figure, and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Okay, let's go home and eat. Okay, Laxus responded and followed Makarov back, but suddenly Makarov turned his head and looked to the other side of the forest. What's wrong, Grandpa? Laxus looked at Makarov suspiciously, his heart full of doubts, and then turned his head over there, but found that there was nothing. It's okay, let's go home. Laxus' words brought Makarov back to his senses, and he immediately forgot what happened just now, then smiled and took Laxus back. As the perspective turned to the direction Makarov was looking at just now, there was only one figure there, that was Leila. Leila was testing something just now. He used the arc of materialization to materialize a sword, and then used the three-dimensional word to send out a slash and hit the barrier on the side. A crack appeared in the barrier, and this crack transmitted the fluctuation of magic, so it was noticed by Makarov. This barrier is so fragile, it really doesn't look like an academic barrier. There was a faint sound of resentment from the barrier. Leila worked hard to create a barrier, but it was cracked by an ordinary attack. Although this barrier did not have Leila's magic support, it was broken by an ordinary attack. It can be seen that Leila has no talent in this aspect. Yes, how well can you expect a person who has difficulty learning English to learn a language again? This barrier is the result of Leila's afternoon work, which is not bad. The content written in this barrier is not very practical. There is only a simple screen shielding and muting, although it may be a little insufficient, it is enough for now, and no one usually comes to wander in the forest. Leila patted her butt, and today's practice ended just like that. She would go back and continue to recite the words of the ritual at night. It was a fulfilling day. Leila, why are you back so late today? It's okay. I just went out for a walk. Leila came out of the house and ran into an uncle who was still working on the waterway. After saying hello to the uncle, Leila returned home, washed up and went to bed. In this way, today, a week later, Leila was finally able to use the spell to write a satisfactory barrier. The main thing was to satisfy Leila. Leila didn't know about other people. Anyway, it was enough for her to use, and she didn't find any faults. While Leila was squatting on the ground writing the spell, he fiddled with it, and the barrier was set up. Then Leila stood up and stretched. With his palm grasping the air, a sword appeared in his hand. He raised it in front of his chest, made a sword finger with his left hand, and then shouted softly, "Cut!" A sword light had already hit the barrier generated by the barrier. The sword light hit the barrier, but the barrier did not shake at all. After Leila's continuous experiments, the barrier has changed from being able to withstand his ordinary attack at the beginning to being able to withstand 100 plus now. Of course, it was not tested one by one. It depends on the different magic power used each time. In that case, let's take a break. You're tired from studying. Leila looked at the intact barrier. This time, the magic power he used was twice as high as before. If it was increased further, Leila's magic power would not be able to hold on. The barrier also needed magic power to maintain. Leila sat on the grass, the spell gradually dissipated, the barrier disappeared. Leila prepared to meditate, but Leila was still able to notice the dangers around. Leila, who entered the meditative state, didn't know a figure was walking towards him. The man approached and saw Leila meditating. He was stunned for a moment, stopped, leaned against a big tree, sat down, and began to close his eyes and rest, paying attention to Leila's state and some animals around from time to time. Leila was unaware of all this. He only felt that his magic power was gradually increasing. He slowly noticed the increase in his magic power, then opened his eyes and looked calm. In recent days of high-intensity training, Leila's magic power has been in a state of growth. He has been used to it. He clenched his fists and felt the increase in magic power this time. Laxus, who saw all this, noticed Leila's magic power, and an idea came to his mind. Leila. Laxus couldn't help but speak, and then he became more and more excited. Laxus, why are you here? A voice interrupted Leila, and she suddenly looked up in the direction of the voice. Leila frowned and thought to herself, what's going on? The barrier didn't work. Did I run out of magic power? It's really not the right time, oh. When Leila meditates, she will sit on the grass over there. There is a spell barrier written by Leila, but why doesn't it work? Oh. You really know that I'm practicing here, Leila, fight with me. Don't want. If you don't fight me, I'll go back to the guild and tell Grandpa that some people are also training here. Laxus already knew Leila's answer, but this time Leila had no choice but to agree. No, okay. Leila saw that Laxus was about to go back, and she was still caught, so she had no choice but to agree to Laxus. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a tense atmosphere, Laxus and Leila stood opposite each other. Laxus' eyes flickered, and he attacked first. He raised his hand and a lightning magic rushed towards Leila. Leila nimbly dodged to the side, and the electric shock blew a hole in the ground behind him. Hey, no way. Leila glanced at the power of the magic, and saw Laxus's serious attitude. Leila couldn't help but hesitate in her heart. He was fighting so seriously, how would this end? Laxus didn't give Leila any time to think. After finding that Leila easily dodged his attack, he quickly followed up. He clenched his fist tightly, gathered magic power, and a dazzling golden lightning wrapped around his hand, ready to attack again. Leila didn't dare to relax at all. Laxus's speed was a little beyond his expectations. After noticing Laxus's thoughts, he quickly retreated, but the distance between the two continued to shorten. Although Laxus couldn't turn into lightning yet, his speed was already extraordinary. Seeing Laxus approaching, Leila had no choice but to use teleportation magic to teleport to a position more than 10 meters behind Laxus. Laxus missed and then said, Leila, you won't hide forever, will you? Laxus pointed his index finger at Leila. Leila kept hiding and Laxus couldn't do anything about it. Well, don't blame me for being unethical. Leila was still thinking about how to end this duel, but when she saw Laxus's relentless attack, she had no choice but to stop dodging. Magic sword, Leila shouted. Although it was a bit childish, Leila felt quite passionate, just like the effect of shouting King Bomb and Landlord. A sword appeared in Leila's hand. Its blade was wide and presented a deep black color. There were ancient characters engraved on the blade and the hilt. Leila picked up the magic sword and ran straight towards Laxus. Laxus also rushed forward. The two of them collided. Perhaps Leila's weapon had the advantage. Laxus avoided the edge and bounced the sword away with a punch. Leila pretended to hold the sword with both hands, ready to chop it down. Laxus retreated. A figure dodged, and Leila immediately swung her sword, took a step forward, and slashed at Laxus. However, Laxus suddenly grabbed Leila's right hand with his left hand, and then cast an electric shock magic. Leila felt paralyzed, and her right hand loosened, and the magic sword fell. Laxus caught it in his hand with a smile. Leila waved her hand, and the magic sword in Laxus's hand disappeared, reappeared in Leila's hand, and then slashed at Laxus again. Laxus wanted to speak, but was caught off guard by Leila's quick operation. The Thunder Dragon's collapse fist, Laxus held back the words in his mouth. He was depressed and did not hold back. He did not dare to be careless and directly used the Dragon Slayer magic. With just one move, he beat Leila back again and again, but Leila still continued to attack. Laxus gradually couldn't hold back and couldn't resist Leila's continuous attack like a tide. He suddenly jumped back with all his strength, trying to distance himself from Leila. At the same time, a dazzling electric current rushed straight to Leila's face like lightning. This electric shock was stronger than the previous one. Laxus released it even faster. Leila saw the electric shock coming. Without any panic, she activated the teleportation magic and appeared behind Laxus. Laxus sensed the approach of the sword in Leila's hand, and in such a tense situation, he directly turned into a lightning to avoid it. Leila was a little surprised to see this. Obviously he did not expect Laxus to turn into lightning. Laxus rushed towards Leila again, and Leila also rushed forward. The two were about to collide again, but when they got closer, Laxus suddenly changed his moves, and lightning flashed on his body. Oh no! Leila, who was unprepared at such a close distance, was directly dodged. Just when Laxus was about to succeed, Leila activated the teleportation to the limit and avoided the move. Seeing this, Laxus could not help but say, "What a pity." "Hey, Laxus, you are so mean." Leila shouted from a distance, "You are almost blind, you are still inexperienced." "Leila, you finally spoke up. How can this be considered despicable? This is a strategy." Laxus spread his hands and didn't care. "Well, don't blame me then," Leila said, and a pair of sunglasses appeared in her hand. "That's why I said, what a pity." Laxus knew that after this attack, Leila would definitely have a countermeasure. The next battle was a real one. The previous ones were just mutual tests. The two had never fought each other, so they naturally knew nothing about each other's moves. As time went on, the battle became more and more intense, and the two sides went back and forth, neither giving in. Laxus's physical fitness was extremely strong, and Leila had to keep teleporting to keep up with Laxus's speed. In the end, Leila lost the battle. With his magic power exhausted, he couldn't avoid it at the last moment when the magic sword dissipated. He had to be hit by Laxus and then knocked to the ground with a punch. This was the first time Leila had fought seriously, and he gained a lot this time. But for Laxus, his physical fitness was as strong as a monster, and the dragon-slaying magic required a lot of consumption, but he could still fight Leila back and forth. "Leila, today's game is a draw." Laxus walked to Leila, sat down, and said proudly. "Well, whatever you think is okay." Leila sat on the ground and sighed inwardly. It was finally over. "By the way, why is it a draw?" "I will keep your secret for you." Laxus did not say it explicitly, but just repeated his promise before the battle. "Well, thank you." After saying that, a feeling of fatigue came over her, and Leila lay down. Seeing this, Laxus also lay down, feeling the faint warmth from the land and the relaxation at the moment. After a long battle, the clouds above were dyed red by the sunset. Leila stared at the beautiful scene, and the fatigue in her heart seemed to gradually dissipate. At this moment, Leila felt an unprecedented tranquility. After an unknown amount of time, Laxus felt that it was getting late. He was afraid that Makarov would find him and Leila would be exposed, so he stood up and said goodbye to Leila. "Hey, don't panic, I'll change your clothes for you." Leila reached out to interrupt Laxus's steps as he was about to leave. "Well, okay." Laxus spread out his hands and checked his clothes, which had been torn by the sword. He would definitely be questioned by Makarov when he returned. Leila snapped her fingers, and a piece of clothes that Laxus wore when he came to him before the battle appeared in front of her. After Laxus put it on, he waved his hand and left. Leila finally let go of her strength and collapsed on the grass. She felt that she might be entangled all the time. The hunger in her body surged up. Leila thought that she had really had a good time today. She stood up, patted her stomach, and went home. Leila was relieved, and the strength of her whole body seemed to be drained. She collapsed on the grass, thinking to herself that she might be entangled in the future, and felt a little helpless. At this moment, the hunger in her body came, and Leila muttered to herself that she had really had a good time today. She stood up slowly, patted her stomach, and turned to go home. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'm back. Leila dragged her tired body to open the door, and then said weakly. What's wrong? Why are you so dusty today? Mavis just brought the food to the table and asked in confusion. Alas, I had a fight with someone and I feel like my body is about to fall apart. Leila replied, went to the bathroom to wash up, and walked to the dining table. although Mavis lived next door. When Leila went out to practice during the day, she would go out to buy groceries in the afternoon and come to Leila's place to cook. There's an extra set of bowls and chopsticks. Who else? Is Grandpa back? Leila walked out of the bathroom and saw 3 sets of bowls and chopsticks on the table. She asked in surprise. I came back at noon, and I just went out to buy some snacks. I guess I will be back soon. As soon as Mavis finished speaking, the sound of a key being inserted into the door lock and turned came from outside the door. What a coincidence. We don't have to wait, and the meal is ready. At this moment, Leila had only one thought in her mind, which was to sit down at the table and eat heartily. She was really hungry. Augustus walked in and saw Leila. He didn't care at all and handed the snack in his hand to Mavis. Mavis took the bag from Augustus, put it aside, and then invited Augustus to eat together. Leila saw this and immediately sat down at the table, waiting for the meal to start. When Mavis and Augustus sat down, they... I'm eating. After saying this, Leila's hands never stopped moving. While eating the food in the bowl, she stared at the pot with her eyes. Her mouth was full of food, and her chopsticks were still constantly putting food into her bowl. Auguste was shocked when he saw this, and then asked Mavis next to him what happened. Mavis shook her head and told Auguste that she had a fight with someone, but did not say who it was. Leila, with her mouth full and chopsticks still holding food, heard Auguste and Mavis talking about her, and muttered vaguely, woo 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 woo. Okay, let's eat first and talk after we finish eating. Augustus was speechless. Who could understand what he said? He immediately waved his hand for Leila to eat. Leila stopped talking after hearing this and hurried to finish the food in front of her. After dinner, Leila lay contentedly on the sofa. Augustus and Mavis were washing dishes in the kitchen, and they were still whispering something. Augustus came out, sat next to Leila and asked, Tell me, what's wrong? It's okay, I had a fight with Laxus, the grandson of Makarov. Leila told Augustus about the duel with Laxus with a sense of relief, and told him the details of Laxus. Well, Dragon Slayer, Magic Crystal. When Auguste heard about Dragon Slayer, he lowered his head and thought about it. Okay, not bad. Auguste actually praised Leila, who had never been praised by him in the previous trips. Instead, he would hit her on the head from time to time. Of course, Leila did not consider her own reasons. Well, it's okay. I'll go take a shower first. Leila happily accepted Augustus's compliment, went back to her room to get some clean clothes, and then went into the bathroom. After eating and drinking, he just wanted to take a comfortable shower and lie down on the bed. Augustus looked at Leila's back and always felt that something was wrong. After thinking it over again and again, he turned on the magic of the divine eye and looked at Leila. He found that Leila was different from before. Augustus frowned slightly. What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Mavis looked at Auguste thoughtfully. Nothing, I just feel a little strange. Auguste shook his head. Weird? Mavis didn't know what was strange about Leila. Leila's magic power seems to have decreased. Auguste then said something strange. Decreased? Because there was no magic power in Mavis' body at this time, Mavis did not notice the change in Leila. Mavis held her chin with her hands on her head, and the wings on her head kept shaking, obviously thinking about the reason for the decrease in magic power. Well, I'll go check it out tomorrow. According to Auguste's idea, since there has been no physical problems for such a long time, it should not be a bad thing. After thinking it through, he also had the answer in his heart. It's just right to go check it out tomorrow. Well, okay, Mavis saw Augustus's expression and knew it was nothing serious, so she was relieved. Leila came out of the shower and saw Augustus and Mavis sitting on the sofa in the living room reading. She said, I'm going back to the room to rest, and she won't disturb them. Leila returned to the room, fell on the bed without hesitation, covered herself with a small quilt, and began to play. Recalling the fierce battle with Laxus today, Leila couldn't help but sigh that she still let him go. After all, his main purpose was to hone his physical skills through fighting with Laxus. Otherwise, he would directly materialize a rubber man, and Laxus might not be able to start at all. Having said that, Leila has never materialized this ability, and maybe it will be difficult to realize it. It takes a lot of magic power to manifest. After all, the ability setting of the fruit is really outrageous. It is difficult for him to estimate the amount of magic power required for manifestation. As for the awakening state of the fruit, he can only think about it. At this moment, Leila, who was still thinking about the details of the battle, stood up suddenly and decided to write down the problems he exposed in the battle and correct them. Not only that, he also had to work hard to learn the technique. Then, he got up from the bed and sat down at the table helplessly. Leila first took out a pen and a diary, and carefully summarized her problems on it. Then she picked up another notebook full of techniques. This is a notebook specially used to record the writing of techniques. In general, Leila's physical skills are terrible, and then he always makes mistakes in the details of the magic circle of the ritual, which may be fatal at the critical moment. In addition, Leila vaguely remembers that there seems to be someone who can directly eliminate the ritual, but he can't remember the name of that person. But it doesn't matter. There is a note on the corner of Leila's desk, which clearly states the basic route, basic decision, basic strategy, and finally a 5-year plan. Basic route: take fairy tale as the core, insist on learning magic, be self-reliant, and work hard. Basic decision: development is the top priority, build a wretched. Development concept and implement it. Basic strategy: be behind the scenes, never show up easily, in order to win steadily. This strategy is the most important thing, is to use this as a bottom line to ensure your own safety and development. 5-year plan: exercise physical fitness, learn physical skills and the use of magic, try to be a versatile chess player, master more magic, and have more trump cards, accept commissions to gain practical experience, insist on meditation, cultivate the mind and spirit, pursue excellence and constantly challenge yourself. Finally, there is a slogan written under this piece of paper: a year's plan starts with spring, and a day's plan starts with the morning. This piece of paper was written by Leila after she joined Fairy Tale, in order to clarify her direction, and to remind herself and spur herself on. Leila picked up the note and took a look at it, clenched her fists, silently cheered herself up, and continued to study at the desk. 2 hours later, Leila continued to study in bed. Super ancient document magic is convenient, and who can resist the charm of the bed? 2,000 years later, Leila fell asleep peacefully in bed. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the early morning, Leila slowly opened his eyes from the quilt, turned his head to look at the alarm clock at the bedside, and there were still a few minutes before the alarm went off, so he turned his head and closed his eyes with peace of mind to continue sleeping. Feeling the warmth in the quilt, he gradually fell asleep again. When he opened his eyes again and looked at the alarm clock, there was still 1 minute left. Leila closed his eyes slowly, quietly waiting for the alarm to go off, and then turned off the alarm to prove that he had woken up. Then, with a hazy sleepiness, he wrapped the quilt more tightly. After a long period of mental struggle between sleeping and getting up, Leila still sat up with difficulty, squinting his eyes to put on clothes. He walked to the window and opened the window. A gust of cold wind blew in. He shrank his neck, shivered, and took a deep breath of fresh air. Walking into the bathroom, Leila turned on the faucet and felt the warm hot water. The heating facilities in this house are very complete, and there is also a fireplace. After washing up, Leila and Auguste simply said hello and stepped out of the house. After going out, on the road, she met a rowing uncle who got up early in the morning to work. After exchanging a few words, Leila went straight to the East Forest. When Leila came to the place where she practiced daily and opened the barrier, the surrounding environment became illusory, as if Leila had never set foot in this place. Outside the barrier, if others came here, they would not be able to see Leila. After a while, the barrier gradually dissipated, and Leila sat on the grass and began to study. A faint sound was heard. It was Leila reciting the text of the ritual. While memorizing, he wrote the ritual on the ground with a branch he picked up. Finally, Leila finished writing the ritual, and the text disappeared, hidden in the space. An invisible barrier was quietly generated, like a transparent shield, covering Leila. Finally, the effect this time is better than ever before. Leila showed a satisfied smile on his face. He couldn't wait to materialize the magic sword, and then began to accumulate power. He saw a huge slash like lightning, raising a puff of smoke. The smoke dissipated, but the barrier was intact. Leila walked out of the barrier and stood outside. Everything in the barrier was natural. He nodded with satisfaction, feeling a little complacent. Then, he walked in again. In this small world that belonged to him, he could practice freely, and more importantly, materialize those imaginary things. The morning passed by like a white horse passing by. Leila came to the stream, took out the fishing rod, and sat there leisurely fishing. These days, he often comes here to enjoy the fun of fishing and have a feast. After a while, Leila swung the fishing rod in his hand, and a big fish broke out of the water. The big fish was still struggling and tumbling. Leila swung his arm and gave it a loud big slap, and the big fish suddenly calmed down. Think about it, for the fish in question, how much psychological damage this one caused. Woo woo woo. Leila snapped her fingers crisply, and the super-fast chef appeared, and manifested a salamander, found some branches, and used the fire of the salamander to make a fire. After that, it was a long wait. When the delicious food was served, Leila ruthlessly dispersed the tool man, after eating and drinking, leaning against a big tree, occasionally throwing a handful of firewood, watching the fire slowly burn. The temperature of the flame was transmitted to Leila's face. This warm and comfortable feeling made Leila want to sleep. Leila was closing his eyes and preparing to take a nap, when a figure broke into his field of vision and blocked the fire. Because of the previous training, Leila physically drove away the surrounding animals, so that no one dared to come to his territory. During normal rest time, Leila's barrier would not be opened. Moreover, Laxus knew he was here, and Leila did not dare to let Laxus stand outside the barrier, which would be more troublesome, and Laxus would definitely threaten Leila to open it. In general, Leila is too lazy. It blocked my fire, and it's not warm at all. Leila closed her eyes tightly, without any reaction, thinking to herself, I don't need to guess who it is, and I can't help but sigh silently. What bad luck, is he here to fight me again? After hearing this, Laxus moved aside, then sat down, facing Leila. Huh. Leila felt the warmth of the fire on her face again, and she felt that something was wrong with Laxus. Why was he so? He then opened his eyes and saw Laxus sitting opposite him, looking shy. What's wrong with you? Just say it if you have something to say. Leila stared at Laxus's shy look, feeling very uncomfortable. I heard from my grandfather that your arc of manifestation can manifest people, so I would like to ask for your help. Huh? Brother, you want me to be your sparring partner? That's impossible. Besides, manifestation consumes a lot of magic power and is very time-consuming. However. But what? You promise me one condition. Okay. That's great, but I haven't thought about it yet. I'll tell you later. When Laxus agreed so readily, Leila immediately materialized and closed her eyes. Laxus was about to speak, but hesitant, not knowing what to say. At this time, Leila quickly opened her eyes again and looked at Laxus. Wait, who do you want to manifest? Leila suddenly remembered that Laxus didn't seem to say who he wanted to manifest. Well, I can just manifest myself. I want to see my usual fighting habits. Laxus thought for a moment and answered Leila. Okay, wait a minute. After hearing this, Leila closed her eyes and began to imagine Laxus in the battle yesterday. From time to time, she could see Laxus using his skills as an adult. He quickly shook his head to dispel these thoughts and continued to imagine the present Laxus. After hearing what Leila said, Laxus also sat quietly by the side and waited. During this time, he saw Leila shaking her head and thought that she could not materialize. However, seeing that Leila had not opened her eyes yet, she did not speak to disturb him. Okay, take a look. Laxus didn't have to wait for long. Leila materialized him and then said to Laxus, looking up and motioning him to look behind him. Laxus turned his head and looked back, and found another Laxus standing behind him. He stood up and stared at the materialized person. A strange feeling surged in his heart, as if he was looking into a mirror. Do you want to fight? Then come. Wow, you are a ruthless person who doesn't talk much. You are the worst of the world. Leila looked at the two people who had only said a few words, each of which had no more than 5 words, and then they started fighting. Leila had been sparring with Laxus for the whole afternoon. Because they had the ability of Dragon Slayer wizards, they could both replenish their physical strength by eating thunder. Therefore, the fight between the two was basically close combat. Moreover, during the fight, they punched the lightning directly into each other's body, which was difficult to eat, so it was extremely consuming of magic power. Leila materialized 4 times intermittently in the middle. Leila leisurely took out her sunglasses and put them on, then began to watch the fight. It was pure melee, and Leila wanted to materialize a ring. However, as time passed, Leila's interest gradually waned, and she turned around and began to study her own techniques. When the last clone dissipated, Leila looked up at the sky and found that it was a little dark, so she and Laxus suggested that they stop here today, sit down and rest for a while before going back. How do you feel? What have you gained? Well, it's okay. Leila snorted inwardly. Why pretend to be so cool? You still fell into my hands. After a short rest, Laxus was afraid that Makarov would come to find him. Although he told Makarov not to call him before he came out to practice, he was still cautious in order to keep Leila's secret. He waved goodbye to Leila and left. Leila also packed up her things and went back. Before leaving, she thought that she would practice here often in the future, and the barrier would also be set up here. Should she build a house here? Well, it is necessary. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Leila returned home, she did not find Mavis and Auguste. However, she did not care. She thought that maybe they had gone out to play. It seemed that after Auguste came back, they had been together almost all the time, and they seemed to be discussing something. Leila went back to her room and took some of her clothes to the bathroom to wash them. While washing clothes, she seemed to hear some noises coming from the house. When she came out, she saw Auguste and Mavis. Mavis was carrying a meal. Mavis said that she brought a dinner for Leila. They had just eaten outside, and she also brought him one after eating. Leila could not help thinking, if you, an old man, go out with a young girl, people will not think that you are a grandfather and grandson. It is not embarrassing for you two to go out. However, Leila only dared to think about it in her heart. After Leila took the dinner, Mavis told him that they were going out for a walk. It was heard that the latest issue of Magic Weekly had been updated, and there were new magic books, which were already on the shelves of the magic shop. After that, the two hurried away, leaving Leila standing by the door, looking at their dusty backs. Leila sighed helplessly, thinking that they didn't even close the door after they left. Leila had to swallow her bitterness silently. This matter made me an outsider. I went to the kitchen to get the bowls and chopsticks, took the dinner, walked into my room, and sat at my own table. Without the two of them, I was still quiet. No, the clothes are still soaking. As soon as Leila put down her chopsticks, she was about to get up to wash the clothes, but when she smelled the fragrance of the food, she hesitated for a moment. Forget it, let's eat first, it's okay to soak for a while. She sat down again and started to finish her dinner. After Leila finished eating and washed the dishes, she went to the bathroom to wash the remaining clothes and hung them up. Time went back to this morning. Auguste cast a magic spell to make himself invisible. He followed Leila's footsteps all the way to the east forest. Seeing Leila walk into a barrier, he couldn't help but sigh. It's only been a few days since they last met, and Leila has learned ritual magic again. But it looks quite ordinary. Forget it. The requirements can't be too high. In order to find out Leila's situation, Auguste opened the divine eye. After observing Leila's behavior in the barrier, he also showed an expression of as expected. Although he knew the truth, he still stayed there for a while to see how Leila's practice results were. After seeing Leila studying so seriously, Auguste nodded slightly. It was really much better than when he was traveling, and then turned and left. You're back so soon. Mavis was puzzled, and she was secretly wondering, "You're back so soon, it seems that there is nothing unusual." Well, nothing happened. Augustus just smiled and shook his head gently. "So what's the reason?" Mavis asked again when she saw Auguste's unhurried attitude. "The thought body." Auguste told Mavis everything he saw in the barrier. It turned out that Leila was transformed into two people in the barrier, and the other person was instantly teleported away. "Oh, I got it. Don't worry, that kid is always smart. Then we can travel without any worries. I was a little hesitant before, but he's growing very fast, so we don't need to worry about him anymore." Leila returned to her room and stood in the middle of the room. A magic circle appeared in front of her, looming. In the magic circle, a vague figure gradually appeared. When the magic circle dissipated, the figure became clearer. Looking closely, it was actually Leila. Leila stared at the thought body in front of her, and the body of the thought body began to become nothingness, and then merged into Leila's body. At the same time, Leila was also digesting today's memories. It is really convenient to have a thought body. Since learning the thought body, Leila has divided herself into two. One is in the guild to make her presence felt, and the other is practicing in the East Forest. However, Leila still focuses on herself in the East Forest. After all, she does not need to consume too much magic power in the guild and is relatively relaxed, feeling that her magic power has been fully restored. Leila can't help but sigh that the feeling of being filled with magic power is really wonderful. When she was practicing in the East Forest, her magic power was still much inferior to her current self. Leila's plan still needs funds, and her own strength needs to be improved. In desperation, she suddenly remembered this magic and used the thought body to ensure that both aspects can be completed. The only thing Leila is not sure about is whether old man Makarov can see the thought body. Leila is skeptical about this. The old man is one of the 10 holy magicians. The guide, his vision is not bad, but for such a long time, the old man didn't say anything. Either he knew it but didn't say it, or he was still kept in the dark. No matter which way, it had no effect on Leila. Although it didn't matter if the old man knew, Leila was still reluctant to let others know some of her cards. At this time, Auguste and Mavis were already on their way back. The two of them were talking and laughing, and they could be seen from a distance carrying large and small bags in their hands. After sending Mavis back to the house, Auguste also opened the door and walked back to his room with his things. In his room, there was already a suitcase packed with things. Auguste put down the things and walked towards Leila's room. After standing in front of the door and knocking on it, he heard Leila's response from inside, pushed open the door and walked in. "What's wrong, Grandpa? Is there something wrong?" Leila wondered in her heart, not understanding why Auguste came here suddenly. He simply packed up his things and put them in the drawer of the desk. "Well, it's okay. I just want to tell you that we are going to travel tomorrow." Auguste looked at Leila calmly. "What? Leaving tomorrow?" Upon hearing the news that Auguste was leaving tomorrow, Leila screamed out loud, and her mood, which had been calm just now, suddenly became turbulent. "Huh? Didn't your mother tell you? Why are you reacting so strongly?" Auguste remembered that Mavis seemed to have mentioned this to Leila before. "I told you I didn't say it so soon. I've only been back for a few days and you left me alone at home." Leila complained. In her heart, she knew the reason why the two of them went on a trip. One wanted to make up for the guilt of not being with him all these years, and the other wanted to be with her. They both had a hard time these years, so it was reasonable for them to want to go out for a walk. "It's been 2 days since we came back. If it weren't for some mistakes, we would have left today." Auguste and Mavis had originally planned to leave as soon as he came back, but something suddenly happened to Leila, and they were worried, so they delayed the trip for a day. "What's wrong?" Leila was very confused when she heard Auguste's words. "It's okay. Anyway, we'll leave early tomorrow morning." Auguste directly issued an ultimatum. "Let's go. It's okay if I'm the only one left." Leila said unhappily. The next morning, Mavis was already waiting outside the door, and Auguste came out with a suitcase. Leila stood at the door in her pajamas, listening to Mavis and Auguste's instructions, and Leila responded to every word. After saying goodbye, Mavis and Auguste set off. Suddenly, Mavis turned back and said to Leila that she would write to him, and Leila agreed and waved. Leila followed their backs closely, watching them go farther and farther away. Leila turned the door off, turned back to the house, and continued to take a nap. Chapter 20. You are listening at Novelful.audio. In the next few years, Leila wanted to live a simple life, going from place to place, but in this noisy guild, it was simply a pipe dream to want to live a peaceful life. In X770, Leila and Laxus went through Makarov's test, successfully passed their respective commissions, and officially became a wizard. Leila had already chosen his mission, and the target was a group of thieves with average strength. After he released the thought body for reconnaissance in advance, he took the commission without hesitation and defeated them in one fell swoop. Laxus's commission was an escort mission. To be honest, Leila felt that this mission was incompatible with Laxus's style. In his impression, Laxus should go to defeat those ferocious monsters and let them see what a real monster is. However, Laxus said that this was the arrangement of the old man, and Leila didn't say much. She just asked about the commission by the way and told Laxus the information. After becoming a formal wizard, Makarov originally hoped that Leila and Laxus could form a team to take on a commission together. However, the team fell apart 3 days after its establishment. At that time, after communicating with the client, the old man learned about what the two had done during the commission, and he compensated and bowed to apologize. After sending the client away, looking at the two people who were still bickering, the old man was extremely helpless and immediately announced the disbandment of the team. Because of the commission of the team, Laxus and Leila started a fierce competition for a year. They set the rules that the content of the competition was who could earn more rewards through commissions within a year. But because the time span was too long, they stipulated that the competition was a score system, and compared it every month for a year, and finally decided the winner. In this way, during this year, the fierce competition between the two forced other members of the guild to follow suit and get involved in this internal battle. Because Leila and Laxus accepted commissions frantically during this year, other members could hardly receive any tasks, and even if there were remaining commissions, the rewards were pitiful. This year, the guild was unusually quiet. After the new year, the guild members looked haggard, so Makarov resolutely issued a rule that the guild prohibited the use of commissions as gambling, and also limited the number of commissions each person could make. More importantly, it greatly limited the commissions of Leila and Laxus, so much so that every year when new members joined, they felt confused when they saw this rule. But as a member of the guild, they wanted to cry but had no tears. When they mentioned it, and they also said, every seemingly unreasonable rule has a bloody lesson. In the end, this commission competition ended with Leila's victory. In the first few months, Leila and Laxus were evenly matched. Before the last month, the score was 6 points for Leila and 5 points for Laxus. Laxus tried his best in the last month just to avoid seeing Leila's smug smile, and he must tie the score and disgust Leila. However, the young Laxus did not understand the evil of human hearts. In the last 2 days, the insidious Leila secretly drugged Laxus. In such a critical 2 days, when the outcome was decided, Laxus went to the toilet for a whole day, and then lay in bed for a whole day. After the competition, Laxus, who was already in good condition, walked into the guild and took Leila out of Magnolia and came to the East Forest. Everyone in the guild looked at each other. I only remember that day, there was a little snow in the sky, and the weather in the East Forest was thundering locally, and Leila did not show up in the guild for 2 whole days. In X771, due to Makarov's regulations and the fact that the two had been paid enough in the past year, Leila and Laxus rarely accepted commissions, so they returned to the East Forest for most of the time to practice. However, because of Laxus' diarrhea, Leila not only suffered a beating from Laxus, but was also forced to be a sparring partner for free. However, on this day, when Leila and Laxus were fighting fiercely in the East Forest, a rapid bell rang from Magnolia. How to ring this bell? Laxus stopped moving and listened attentively to the sound of the bell. What happened? Leila frowned slightly. He was still unclear about the situation at the moment. He could only vaguely hear the sound of the bell. "It's the uncle who is coming back." "Yes, that's right, you haven't seen him yet. Gildarts, the strongest of the guild." Laxus saw Leila's confused expression and explained to him. "Gildarts?" Lila's mood instantly became excited, and she couldn't wait to meet this uncle. Then, Laxus and Leila rushed back to Magnolia. At this time, there were several magic speakers in the sky above Magnolia constantly broadcasting, reminding citizens to pay attention to safety. At the same time, Magnolia entered Gildarts mode. From the East Forest, you can see that the city has sprung up like bamboo shoots after the spring, and each house is like a block, gradually splicing into a new shape. There is only one road in the middle of the city that leads directly to the guild from the city entrance, and a figure is walking along this road towards Fairy Tale. At this time the two people from the East Forest returned to the guild with the help of Leila's teleportation magic. The guild was bustling with people, and no one noticed the sudden return of the two. Everyone was celebrating the return of Gildarts happily. Gildarts returned, looked at the new faces in the guild, smiled slightly, and walked to Makarov. After the two exchanged greetings, Gildarts went back to rest. At this time, Leila on the side saw this and hurriedly pulled Laxus to find Gildarts. Laxus was reluctant to go, but he couldn't persuade Leila. After all, Leila had never seen Gildarts before, and hoped that Laxus could introduce him to someone else. After they met, when Gildarts heard Leila's magic, his eyes suddenly lit up and his face was full of excitement. He felt attracted by this magic, but Leila always felt that Gildarts' eyes were a little strange. However, Gildarts coughed lightly and returned to normal. In the following days, Gildarts often watched the battle between Leila and Laxus, mainly because he saw the potential of the two. Especially Leila's magic, he can materialize another Laxus, which makes Gildarts particularly interested. He even asked Leila to materialize himself as well. Leila decisively refused, saying that she was not capable enough at the moment. But still can't do it. However, Gildarts was not discouraged. He firmly stated that when he could do it in the future, he must call him. When he said this, his eyes became serious and sharp. In this way, the three of them stayed in the East Forest for a while, and often went fishing together. 2 weeks later, Gildarts took another SS-level commission, and then packed his bags and left. Before leaving, Leila asked him puzzledly, the reward for the commission was enough to live for a while, why did he go out again after a few days every time he came back? Gildarts just smiled and touched Leila's head, and said softly, "I just like traveling. When will you come back next time?" Leila couldn't help asking. Gildarts didn't answer. He carried his luggage on his left hand and waved his right hand, leaving behind a receding back. Chapter 21. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In X772, time passed quickly and it was already the 4th year. For some reason, Leila flatly rejected Laxus's invitation to practice and left Laxus alone in the cabin in the East Forest. The cabin was built by Leila herself, because he often practiced there and set up a barrier around it. It was always more convenient to have a room. Later, Laxus also came there, and then rebuilt the cabin and added a room. In July of X772, half a year had passed. Leila stayed in the guild almost all day, and only occasionally took commissions to go out to get rewards to make a living. But in this month, Leila's state was abnormal, and she didn't care about some things. Laxus saw Leila's listless appearance and was confused. After asking, Leila said it was okay. So Laxus found Makarov again and wanted the old man to ask, but Makarov was helpless. On this day, Leila was resting in the guild, and suddenly a bell rang. Listening to the familiar rhythm, Leila instantly understood that Gildarts was back. Everyone in the guild stood at the door of the guild, excitedly waiting for Gildarts's figure, but Leila was still hiding in the intelligence room, indifferent. When Laxus saw Gildarts's return, he had an idea and told him everything that had happened to Leila during this period. After hearing this, Gildarts said he knew, then explained the commission to Makarov and walked towards the intelligence room. Leila was lying on the table, bored, supporting her head with her left hand, her body tilted, and turning a pen with her right hand. The door was suddenly pushed open, and a figure broke in. Leila was startled. "Hey, Leila, you knew I was back," but you didn't come out to greet me. Gildarts kicked the door open, smiled, and said to Leila happily. Well, Gildarts, welcome back. Leila responded weakly when she saw it was Gildarts. Gildarts walked up to Leila, raised his hand to pinch the back of Leila's neck, and walked straight towards the wall. Leila was scared and screamed, I'm going to hit the wall. I'm going to hit the wall. Then, there was a pop sound, and the wall broke into several blocks. Gildarts walked out swaggeringly, and Makarov's shouting came from behind, loudly scolding Gildarts. Laxus looked at Leila, who was being carried by Gildarts like a chicken, and couldn't help laughing out loud. No, I was wrong, I will go on my own. Leila struggled desperately in Gildarts's hands, thinking to herself, if the residents of the city saw this, it would be a disaster. Do you know you are wrong? Gildarts lifted Leila up and stared at him. Leila nodded repeatedly, her eyes full of pleading. Come with me. Gildarts saw that Leila was understanding and put him down. Leila followed closely behind Gildarts, crossed a river, and came to Gildarts's home. As soon as she entered the door, she could see a calligraphy with 4 big characters I am the only one written on it. However, after entering, Leila found that the decoration inside was really simple. After putting down the luggage, Gildarts took Leila to the East Forest with 2 fishing rods in his hands. Hey, Gildarts, why do you want to go fishing as soon as you get back? You really have a special liking for fishing. Leila took the fishing rod handed to her by Gildarts and quickly followed. Fishing is a man's romance. It can stimulate a man's hunting instinct and make people feel the beauty of being one with nature. This is a man's real playground. When Gildarts talked about fishing, his expression became serious, and he was completely different from his usual self. When they came to the riverside of the East Forest, Gildarts and Leila sat there and began to enjoy the tranquility of fishing. However, it didn't take long for Leila's mind to stop fishing, and her eyes gradually became dazed. Tell me, what happened? Gildarts noticed that Leila was acting strange, and he asked calmly. It's okay. Leila answered casually. It's okay. Who in the guild can't see what you're thinking? Leila didn't answer after hearing that, but her mind recalled those annoying things. And seeing that Leila was absent-minded, Gildarts stopped talking and just waited silently for Leila to speak. Because the deadline has come this year, Leila must make preparations in advance to prevent accidents. If the time is missed, everything will be irreversible, and everything will return to the track of fate. So he released the thought body and asked it to go to the north to inquire about the news. After months of hard work, in early July, a note was sent to the table in Leila's intelligence house. Leila couldn't wait to open the note and scan the information on it. Then, a flame rose from Leila's hand, turning the note into ashes in an instant. The note said that Ultia was still struggling in pain. Bulu had accepted Leo as a disciple, and after Deliora destroyed a city in the north, hide it. As for Grey, we will talk about it later. That night, Leila returned home, opened the door, and saw the thought body sitting at the table. Without saying much, the thought body merged into Leila's body, and at the same time transmitted the memories of the past few months to Leila's mind, including the news about Grey. Because there is very little information about Grey now, Leila only remembers his name and his father's name. After that, through the ancient document magic, she kept searching in the north and finally found the city where Grey was located. It was still a long way from Deliora's previous location, so this time period had to be postponed. But in the Magic Development Bureau, Ultair's painful screams and the ruins of the city destroyed by Deliora, these pictures were like heavy haze, shrouding Leila's heart and could not dissipate for a long time. He just felt a little confused. Leila's original plan, after Grey became Ulu's apprentice, it was too late. Eulucia would suffer more, Grey would lose his father, and Deliora would destroy many cities. He knew the solution, but chose to delay because he was afraid of his destiny. To be honest, other people were insignificant in Leila's heart, but he could not ignore Eulucia and Grey. He began to hesitate. If you have anything to say, just speak up. Don't let everyone in the guild worry about you. Don't keep it to yourself. We are still here for you. Gildarts said softly when Leila didn't speak for a long time. I'm just a little confused. Leila looked ahead, then lowered her head to stare at the fishhook floating in the water. "Leila, just do whatever you want to do. I'm still behind you no matter what happens." Gildarts laughed heartily, put his hand on Leila's shoulder and patted her twice, and said with a firm look in his eyes. "Yes, I know." Leila stared at Gildarts and nodded vigorously. "It's hooked." Gildarts suddenly felt the pulling of the fishing rod in his hand. He held the fishing rod tightly with both hands and swung it violently, throwing a big fish onto the shore. A few days later, Gildarts took on a commission and was about to leave in a hurry. When he went out, he caught a glimpse of a little girl holding a white puppy. "Little girl, what are you doing here alone? Go home quickly. If you stay in a place like this, your clothes will be stained with the stink of alcohol." These two sentences stopped the little girl from saying anything. Leila saw all this, then told Makarov that she was going to the East Forest, and left the guild.